There was a young woman named Murat. She was kind and beautiful, with a heart full of love. But Murat had a big secret. She was born with both female and male organs. Only her parents knew about it, and they kept it hidden from everyone, even from Murat's best friends. Murat fell in love with a handsome young man named Olu. Olu was strong, brave, and loved Murat deeply. They did everything together, from farming in the fields to watching the stars at night. They laughed, talked, and shared their dreams. Murat felt so happy with Olu, but every day, her secret weighed heavy on her heart. She was afraid that if Olu found out, he would not want to marry her. The day Olu proposed to Murat, she was overjoyed. She wanted to say yes immediately, but her secret held her back. She smiled and told him she needed some time to think about it. Olu was surprised, but he agreed to wait for her answer. That night, Murat couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, thinking about her secret and what to do. She wanted to marry Olu more than anything in the world, but she was scared of losing him. Her parents told her to trust Olu, but Murat was too afraid. She decided she would keep her secret and hope Olu never found out. As the days passed, the village prepared for the big wedding. Everyone was excited. Murat and Olu's families were busy with the arrangements. There were colorful decorations, delicious food, and beautiful clothes. Murat smiled and tried to enjoy the preparations, but inside, she was nervous and worried. One day, as Murat was walking by the river, she met her old friend, Nia. Nia was curious and asked Murat why she looked so sad when she should be happy about her wedding. Murat hesitated, but then she opened up to Nia and told her everything. Nia listened quietly and then hugged Murat tightly. Murat, Nia said, love is about honesty and trust. If Olu truly loves you, he will accept you as you are. But you must tell him the truth. Murat knew Nia was right, but she felt trapped. The wedding was only a few days away, and she didn't want to ruin everything. She thanked Nia for her advice and walked back home, feeling more confused than ever. As the big day approached, Murat's fear grew stronger. She smiled at everyone but felt like crying inside. She looked at Olu and wondered if he would still love her if he knew her secret. The night before the wedding, Murat sat by the fire, staring into the flames, lost in thought. Would she find the courage to tell Olu the truth? Would he still want to marry her if he knew? The question swirled in her mind, but she had no answers. The wedding was so close, and Murat felt like time was running out. The morning of the wedding day arrived. The sun rose brightly, and the whole village buzzed with excitement. The air was filled with the scent of flowers and the sounds of joyful music. Everyone was getting ready, and so was Murat. Her friends helped her dress in a beautiful gown, and she wore a stunning necklace that Olu had given her. She looked radiant, but inside, her heart was heavy with worry. As the time for the ceremony got closer, Murat felt her hands shaking. She looked at her reflection in the mirror and wondered if she could really go through with it. She loved Olu with all her heart, but the thought of keeping her secret forever made her feel trapped. She took a deep breath and tried to calm herself, but the fear wouldn't go away. Murat's parents noticed how tense she was. They gently asked her if she was okay. She forced a smile and nodded, not wanting to worry them. But deep down, she knew she couldn't hide her feelings forever. Her mother hugged her and whispered, "Everything will be fine, my dear. Just trust in love." As the guests started arriving, Murat felt her stomach twist with nerves. She could see Olu from afar, looking handsome in his wedding clothes. He was talking and laughing with his friends, unaware of the storm in Murat's heart. She felt a pound of guilt and wondered if she was doing the right thing. Just then, her best friend Nia came to check on her. Nia saw the worry in Murat's eyes and knew she was struggling. She pulled Murat aside and said softly, "You don't have to go through with this if you're not ready. You can talk to Olu. He deserves to know the truth." Murat felt tears welling up in her eyes. She hugged Nia tightly, grateful for her support, but she still felt scared. The village elder, who was to officiate the wedding, arrived and smiled warmly at Murat. He patted her on the shoulder and said, "You look beautiful, my dear. This is a special day. Remember, true love conquers all." Murat nodded and tried to smile, but her mind was racing. The ceremony was about to start, and she still hadn't decided what to do. She looked at the crowd of happy faces and felt overwhelmed. She loved Olu so much, but could she really keep such a big secret from him? As the music started playing, signaling the beginning of the ceremony, Murat felt a sudden urge to run. She knew she couldn't face Olu with this secret weighing on her heart. But before she could do anything, her parents and friends surrounded her, leading her to the aisle. With every step she took, Murat's heart pounded harder. She saw Olu's smiling face at the end of the aisle, waiting for her. She felt torn between her love for him and her fear of losing him. As she reached him, Olu took her hand and whispered, "You look stunning, Murat." She forced a smile and squeezed his hand. The village elder began to speak, and the ceremony started. Murat stood beside Olu, trying to focus on his words, but all she could think about was her secret. She glanced at Olu, who was looking at her with so much love and joy. It made her heart ache even more. As the elder spoke, Murat felt the weight of her secret pressing down on her. She knew she couldn't keep it forever, but she was terrified of what would happen if she told the truth. She felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, unsure whether to jump or hold on. The ceremony continued, but Murat's mind was far away. She could see the happiness in Olu's eyes, and it made her want to cry. She loved him so much, but the fear of losing him was overwhelming. She felt like time was running out, and she didn't know what to do. As the ceremony went on, Murat felt like the world was spinning around her. The village elder spoke about love and commitment, but Murat's mind was clouded with worry. She tried to listen, but all she could think about was the secret she was keeping from Olu. She felt like she was stuck in a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. Just when the elder was about to ask if anyone had any objections, a sudden loud noise startled everyone. A group of young children, who were playing outside, accidentally knocked over a stack of drums. The drums rolled across the ground, causing a loud commotion. The guests laughed, and even Olu chuckled at the unexpected interruption. Murat let out a small sigh of relief. The sudden noise gave her a moment to breathe. She looked at Olu, who was still smiling, and felt her heart swell with love. But the fear of losing him was still there, stronger than ever. The elder smiled and waited for the laughter to die down. He then looked at Murat and Olu, ready to continue with the ceremony. But before he could say anything, a voice from the back of the crowd called out, "Wait." Everyone turned to see who it was. Murat's heart skipped a beat, thinking someone might have found out her secret. But it was just an old woman, a respected elder in the village. She walked slowly toward the front, holding a small basket. The crowd murmured, wondering what was happening. The old woman reached Murat and Olu and held out the basket. Inside were beautiful, colorful beads. She smiled warmly and said, "These are for the bride and groom. A gift from the village, to bless your union with joy and prosperity." The elder nodded in approval, and Murat and Olu accepted the gift. The old woman blessed them and returned to her seat. The small distraction allowed Murat a moment to calm her racing heart. She looked at Olu, who seemed so happy, and felt a deep sadness. She knew she couldn't keep her secret hidden forever, but she couldn't bear the thought of losing him. As the elder was about to proceed, another interruption came, this time from a group of young girls who started singing a traditional song. The sweet melody filled the air, and the guests clapped along. Murat felt grateful for the delay, even if it was only for a few moments. She needed time to think, to figure out her with a gentle smile and squeezed her hand. He whispered, "Everything okay?" Murat nodded, trying to smile back, but her eyes were full of worry. Olu noticed but didn't press further, thinking she might just be nervous about the big day. The song ended, and the elder cleared his throat to continue. But before he could speak, a sudden gust of wind blew through the area, knocking over some of the decorations. The guests gasped, and some stood up to fix the fallen items. The wind carried a few flowers into the air, and everyone watched as they floated around. Murat took a deep breath. The small chaos around her gave her a chance to collect her thoughts. She looked at the flowers dancing in the wind and felt a strange sense of calm. She knew she had to make a decision, but the fear of the unknown held her back. The wedding was so close to happening, and yet, she felt so far from being ready. The wind settled, and the guests returned to their seats. The elder smiled at Murat and Olu, ready to proceed once more. Murat's heart pounded in her chest. She glanced at Olu, who looked at her with love and trust. The moment of truth was approaching, and Murat felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, unsure whether to leap into the unknown or hold back. The weight of her secret felt heavier than ever, and she knew she couldn't keep it hidden forever. As the ceremony continued, the village elder moved forward with the vows. Murat's heart raced, knowing she was about to make a lifelong promise. She glanced at Olu, who stood beside her with a hopeful smile. The guests watched, eagerly anticipating the couple's exchange of vows. Murat took a deep breath and began to speak. She looked into Olu's eyes and spoke about how much she loved him, how happy she was to be standing with him. Her voice trembled, but she continued, choosing her words carefully. She spoke of their shared dreams and the life they would build together, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to spill. Olu's turn came, and he spoke with a steady voice. He told Murat how much she meant to him, how he admired her kindness and strength. He promised to love and cherish her, to stand by her side through good times and bad. His words were full of warmth and sincerity, making Murat's heart ache with both joy and sorrow. As the elder prepared to pronounce them married, Murat felt a surge of panic. The moment was here, and she felt unready. But before she could say anything, the elder spoke the final words, and the village erupted in cheers and applause. The wedding was official. Murat and Olu were surrounded by friends and family, who showered them with blessings and congratulations. They were led to a beautifully decorated hut, where a feast awaited them. The air was filled with laughter and music, and everyone celebrated the union of the happy couple. Murat tried to enjoy the festivities, but her mind was clouded with worry. She smiled and danced with Olu, but the fear of her secret being discovered hung over her like a shadow. She felt like she was living a lie, and it hurt her heart. But she pushed those feelings aside, wanting to savor the joyous day as much as she could. As the sun set and the celebration began to wind down, Murat and Olu bid farewell to their guests. The villagers wished them well and left the couple alone in their new home. The small hut was cozy, filled with gifts and flowers from the wedding. Olu took Murat's hand and led her inside, closing the door behind them. Inside the hut, everything was quiet. The noise of the celebration faded away, leaving just the two of them. Olu looked at Murat with a soft smile. "Today was amazing," he said, his voice full of warmth. "I'm so happy we finally got married." Murat nodded, feeling a lump in her throat. She tried to smile, but her eyes were filled with uncertainty. Olu noticed and gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Is something wrong?" he asked, his voice full of concern. Murat hesitated, her heart pounding. She wanted to tell him everything, but the fear of his reaction held her back. She forced a smile and shook her head. "I'm just tired," she said softly. "It's been a long day." Olu nodded, accepting her explanation. He hugged her gently, and Murat felt both comforted and conflicted. They sat together for a while, talking about the day's events and the future they wanted to build. Olu was excited about their life together, and his enthusiasm made Murat feel both hopeful and afraid. As the night grew late, Olu suggested they get some rest. He helped Murat into the bed they would now share as husband and wife. Murat lay beside him, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing with thoughts. Olu soon fell asleep, his breathing steady and calm. Murat lay awake, feeling the weight of her secret pressing down on her. She knew she couldn't keep it hidden forever, but she was terrified of what would happen when the truth came out. She loved Olu deeply and couldn't bear the thought of losing him. But the fear of his reaction to her secret made her feel trapped. As the night wore on, Murat's thoughts swirled in her mind. She knew she had to make a decision soon, but she didn't know what to do. For now, she decided to let the day end without revealing her secret. She turned to look at Olu, who was sleeping peacefully beside her. She whispered a quiet apology, hoping that one day, he would understand. With a heavy heart, Murat finally closed her eyes and drifted into a restless sleep, her mind filled with uncertainty and fear about the future.